Hello there and welcome to the Card Grotto. Today I have two tags to share with you, and I'm also talking about ways to bring back your mojo if it's gone missing. This video is part of a fun blog hop celebrating my friend Jessica Frost-Ballas reaching 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube. A bunch of us have got together to share lots of inspiration with you, and there are also lots of prizes to be had along the way as well. All of the details about the hop are in the description bar below. So let's get started with my tags. So I've started off by die cutting the reverse confetti grid stitched tag die 4 times from Bristol smooth cardstock. I've cut it 4 times because I want to create 2 tags and I want a tag on the front and the back of the tag. I'm going to add some ink blending onto my tags using Distress Oxide inks. I'm using Cracked Pistachio, Peacock Feathers and Kitsch Flamingo. I don't have the swatch for Kitsch Flamingo just yet, but I'll get onto that in a little while. So while I'm going to start doing my ink blending, I'm going to talk about my first tip for bringing back your mojo, and that is to try a new colour combination. So in my instance is ink blending, but it could be watercolour, it could be Copic colouring, anything really. Sometimes I find just using something slightly different, and most of us being card makers love different colours. It's just nice to try something slightly different, and I think a colour combination in particular, if you're using a technique that you've used a lot in the past, you're familiar with the technique, you're just trying a different colour combination. So it's not kind of too far out of your comfort zone, but it's kind of going a little bit out of your comfort zone, if that makes sense. So this colour combination in particular is not one that I would have thought of. I saw this actually on Jessica's blog and I just fell in love with it. I just thought it was a really beautiful colour combination. She is personally, I think, the queen of ink blending. She does ink blending so well with Distress Oxides in particular. And she has just wonderful colour combinations. So I have stolen this from her and I hope she doesn't mind. So I'm going through here and added some clouds onto this tag. And I'm using the Cloud Stencil from MFT. And I'm just going in, adding all of the different colours here. I'm doing kind of like 3 layers for each of the different colours. And I do blend this one slightly with the Cracked Pistachio and the Peacock Feathers. This is the first time for me using the new domed ink blender foams from Ranger. I wanted to try them out. I'm thinking that I'm probably going to use them for my Oxide inks. In the past, or recently, I have been using brushes, but honestly I'm getting fed up of having to clean my brushes constantly, and so I think I'm going to start using these domed foams. I didn't get on particularly well with Oxide inks and the flat foams. I do actually really like them for the regular distress inks, but for Oxides I didn't particularly like them that much. So I'm finding that these actually are working quite well so far. This is the first time that I've used them. I didn't actually realise how much ink they hold. They do actually hold quite a lot of the Oxide, so that's quite good. As I went along this tag, I kind of figured that out, and that I actually didn't need as much on that foam as I thought I would. Probably because they're, like Oxides are half pigment, half dye, so it makes sense that you probably don't need as much as I thought you would. So I'm just going along here and adding all of that colour on, just going in with that Kitsch Flamingo right at the bottom, just to kind of blend that out so that covers that whole tag. And so that's the ink blending completed for my first tag. Again, like I say, it's not a colour combination I would have thought of, but it worked out really pretty, I think. Kind of gives like a sort of dreamy look to a sky. I really do like it. For my next tag, I'm going to do, I suppose, kind of more traditional ink blending, and I'm just going to ink blend the colours onto the tag. So I'm using the same 3 colours that I used on the first tag, but just blending them together so that I get different blends kind of in between the different colours. Jessica Frost-Ballas has actually shared quite a lot of tips recently on ink blending, and I found them really, really helpful. So I'm using some of those tips when I'm doing this ink blending. But on to my second tip about if you've happen to have lost your mojo, and that is to organise your supplies. For me, often that is like creating swatches and things like that. I do find swatches really helpful. I know that they're not for everyone, but for me, I find them quite helpful in things like if I'm looking for a different colour combination, for example. I can kind of put the swatches together and see if I think it's going to work or not. You obviously absolutely can just try it out, but I'm one of those people that likes to kind of visually see kind of what I'm doing in advance. And so swatches for me, I do find really helpful, and it means that I can do something slightly creative, but not intimidated enough to kind of create a whole project. So I'm just going in here and blending all of those colours together. I didn't get a great blend like compared to Jessica, for example, but actually I really like how it turned out. So next I'm going to add some splatter onto my tags because I did want to add a little bit of shimmer to them. So I'm using the Tsukineko Sheer Shimmer Spritz in Sparkle, and I wanted to create more of a splatter rather than a mist. So I'm just spraying some of that onto a little piece of craft sheet, picking that up with a paintbrush, and then I can splatter that onto the tags. I did add quite a lot of splatter, I have to admit, but can you ever have too much sparkle? I'm not sure if you can, but I think they looked really pretty in the end. Next, I'm going to work on the butterfly images that are going to go on the tags. This is the Reverse Confetti stained glass butterfly set. It's absolutely beautiful. I did receive this as a present from a good friend of mine, and I just fell in love with it, so I'm really excited to be able to use it. I'm stamping them down onto some Hero Arts Vellum. I thought the vellum would work really nicely with the butterflies. Kind of looks like they're kind of floating in the air. And I'm also using embossing powder that is quite light as well, and it's going to give more of an airy look. So I'm using the Misty here just to place them down. And that kind of brings me on to my next point about losing your mojo. And that's to use supplies that you honestly really love. I know that that sounds silly because why would you be using products that you don't love? But when I lose my mojo, I really want to use products that I absolutely love, or techniques that I really love doing. I don't want to necessarily try something new. I might want to try a new colour combination, for example, but I don't want to be learning something new necessarily when I've lost my mojo. That's just me personally. So for me, I love butterflies, so I wanted to use butterflies. I love ink blending, so I wanted to do ink blending today. I love embossing on vellum, so I wanted to emboss on vellum. It's just things that you know and love, and so hopefully you'll enjoy actually making the project that you're doing. If you are doing a project, or if you wanted to just do something kind of like for fun that's not going to be a finished project in the end. So I've added on some sparkle embossing powder from Hero Arts, and I wanted to share this new little toy that I got for Christmas. I adore this thing. This is the We Are Memory Keepers glitter vac. Now, you don't have to have a We Are Memory Keepers one. To be fair, they are quite expensive for what they are. You can get generic ones off of Amazon for cheaper, but I do love the colours of this. And like I said, it was a really lovely present to receive. And it's just a little kind of vacuum cleaner. And me and embossing powder don't go well together. I get it all over my desk, and so I use that all the time just to pick up all of the stray embossing powder that happens to end up on my craft mat. I absolutely love that thing. So here I have heat set that embossing powder, and although it is really pretty, it is a bit too light. So I've gone in and stamped those butterflies again, and this time I'm using Hero Arts White Satin Pearl embossing powder. It's still very light, but I think it's just slightly darker against the backgrounds, and so but really still quite kind of light and airy at the same time. So I've used the coordinating dies just to cut those out. So next I'm taking the other tags that I cut originally, and I'm going to add a clean one of those onto the back of the other tags. If I'm going to send them as tags, I do like to have like a nice clean back to the tag. So on to my fifth tip for if you've lost your mojo, and that is to try a different size of project. So for my instance, I'm using tags. I find them a little bit less intimidating sometimes than cards because they're a lot less big in size basically. But for you, that may be like a circle card, it may be a mini slimline card, it may be an ETC, it might be a journal page, it might be a bookmark. Just try something of a slightly different size that may be a little bit less intimidating for you. I'm just kind of manipulating the edges of the butterflies there, and I have stamped out this sentiment that says happy birthday. The stamp actually says happy birthday friend, but I just masked that off, stamped it down onto some black cardstock and heat embossed that in white embossing powder. And then I'm going to add the butterflies onto my tags. So adhering vellum is slightly difficult. If I was to want them to be completely flat onto the tag, I would have covered the back with stick it adhesive, and I have shared that in a video in the past that I've done, how you can adhere vellum completely flat so that you don't see the adhesive. But today I wanted the butterfly wings to kind of be lifted off of the tag just to give them a little bit more movement. And so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to hide the adhesive. So here I'm using multi-medium matte adhesive, and because of the embossing, I'm going to use that to my advantage, and that's going to kind of hide the glue, really, the adhesive that I've added on. I've only added it right behind where the embossing is, and although the embossing powder is kind of, I suppose, almost clear in a way, it has got that pearlescent shine, and so you didn't I don't think you can see the glue through it, and I know that it's there, so hopefully the recipient wouldn't notice. But for this one I'm going to add my sentiment strip on top with some foam tape, and I'm just going to add it into the middle of the butterfly here, and that's going to give me some space for me to add adhesive onto the back so that you don't see that adhesive. So I can add a little bit more onto this, and if I had overlapped the sentiment with the other butterfly on the other tag, I could have done the same thing. So just making sure that that is in the middle there, or as well as I can do. And then I can add some tape runner, and that's going to be hidden behind that sentiment strip. So I do like doing that. You could do that with embellishments and things like that as well, but I didn't really want anything else to be covering the other butterfly. And then I can go in with that multi-medium matte as well and just add very small dabs of that right to the middle of the body there. And when you stick that down, like I said, you don't see the adhesive. That's where embossing powder does help. So I'm just using some tweezers here just to stick that down in the middle of the tag. And then I have the toppers of the tag here, and I'm just going to adhere them onto the top of the tag. With these toppers, I think you can add them either way. So you have like the tall bit at the top, or you have the tall bit at the bottom. And I've done it this way, but I am actually going to cut off the top of these because I want to add some twine in, and it's just a bit easier to not have that bit hanging off the top. But it is quite nice if you didn't want to add the twine into it. So I'm just using some scissors there just to cut the tops of those off. And then I'm going to add some Spellbinders black licorice twine through the top of those, and then just tie them in a bow at the front. I like to kind of leave the, I don't know what you call them, like the tails of the bows, I like to leave them quite long. And then once I've got the bows how I want them, I'm going to embellish the tags using Lucy's Cards Bubbles. So on to my last tip for today, and that's to be inspired by others. So like I mentioned, my tags today were inspired by our host Jessica. I absolutely love her colour combinations and ink blending techniques. We have a great community over on Instagram, so if you'd love to follow me over there, I would love to have you. My Instagram handle is @thecardgrotto. So that's my projects done for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Links to the products that I used will be in the description bar on YouTube and also over on my blog. Huge congratulations to Jessica on her amazing achievement, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.